Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our XR Weekly News today. And Tim, do you want to share your news for this week?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on XR, and the first one is an article from Astral City that I'm going to cover that talks about kind of we're in a tipping point for XR, and now XR is an inevitability, not an option. Is kind of what they're trying to say, and I think you'll see a lot more adoption as tools begin to help creators create stuff. I think it's really interesting how businesses are starting to embrace XR as well. And it's shifting from novelty to necessity. A lot of the gaming stuff that's still out there, interesting. There's more return on value and investment for some of these enterprise type of applications. I think everybody saw the $50 billion or whatever it was, Andreal investment by the government taking over the soldier of the future. Big tech is really driving a lot of the innovation right now. Apple and Google and Meta are really driving what's happening in the market right now, which is really interesting. And as we get more towards the glasses form factor, and I'll have another article about that later, I think we'll see more adoption. And I think just getting people to use it is really kind of that tipping point, and I expect to see a lot more users in the next year as it continues to grow and pe more people adopt it. Dom, what industries beyond gaming do you think uh, will be really benefited by XR?
I think training, education. For example, right now, recently, Meta just released their enterprise training and education plans, which means that, for example, they create a hub for it's like a subscription base. 179, I forgot what's the number, but it's like you pay a certain amount of subscription fee, and then you can access to their kind of like a content creation management types of things. I think this will be the trend. For example, I remember one of the podcasts that the guest was the most, I would say right now, the very interesting app called Replit. Replit is kind of like a platform allows non-coder to type whatever you desire and it will generate an app, directly generate an app, agentic AI. And then by paying a certain amount of super small fee, you can launch your own customized app. So I can see a lot of non-coder or people who doesn't really know how to execute or like a PM, right? I think a PM usually, a product manager usually have a big idea, but doesn't really know like the details how to execute it. I
Hmm.
think this really empowers PM or product owner who is not like a computer science background can launch an app. So I start looking at, for example, Meta. They are launching a lot of like creator hubs, right?
Hmm.
A lot of hubs or like enterprise training, like hubs, and allows people like before you have to at least some product background, either from developer side or designer side,
Hmm.
or combination in order to launch your product. Right now, I think those hubs powered by large enterprise by certain amount of fee, either small fee or big like enterprise fee, uh, it allows people with the vision to create something within a very short amount of time and almost zero tech support. And also the interesting observation from the interview podcast, I find out that right now, someone asked like, "What's the future of education?" And the CEO of Replit said that it because before our previous education is more like we answer the we answer for the questions that teacher
Hmm.
ask, right? Teacher will ask you, and quiz is teacher asks you, right? And you need to know the answer. But now we need to learn, or we need to teach the kid learn how to ask a question.
Oh yeah.
This is like a reverse, right?
Yeah.
So by asking the right question, you got a better answer. And by asking more questions, you learn from something you didn't know, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's a very interesting education perspective. Before we have to storage all the knowledge and trying to answer the right question. Right now, the perspective switch, ChatGPT or any AI tools is there. It depends on how well you ask the question and also how well you can understand whether your answer is not hallucinate or not.
Sure.
So yeah, so I think yeah, from need to answer the correct question to switch to how to ask the right question, like from answering to ask. I think this is a very interesting switch. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a show called True Detective, and I think it was called Night Country, the last uh, series of it. And the detective on it, she would always ask, "What's the right question? What's the right question to ask?" And somebody would ask a question, and she would say, "That's not the right question. What's the right question?" So yeah, I think getting to the right question is important in discovering things. I'm going to transition to another piece of news about Meta. They created a $50 million creator fund. Like as you were saying, more and more people are kind of getting into this creating. Meta is creating this creator fund for Horizon World. They're making a switch from self-contained apps to this kind of metaverse model. And they're also going to expand. I think this is an important through topic as well. They're expanding Horizon Worlds to mobile and PC so that they can grow the population or grow the user base of people who are interacting in those worlds. I think that's an important step, sort of this interoperability and access to the air quotes metaverse is super important. It's also showing that there's going to be a rise in the free to play VR space so that people can get in. Again, it's access and getting more people in and experience and exposure. I am interested in your thoughts on the impact on independent VR developers, though, as we have these big companies creating these platforms. What do you think will happen to the little guys and gals?
Yeah, yeah. I think in the future it will be like a totally go extreme, right? Big company will get more and more money and more support. It's like a magnet. They will attract the more money, investment, and all the people will goes towards the big platform. However, I think the small creator or developer can utilize all the free tools that the or like a little fee from the big company and start building, the user generate. So, for example, Horizon, why it release? We can do like a reverse engineer thinking.
Hmm.
Why Meta is paying so much money instead of letting the hire tons of employees do the work? Why Meta using these types of competition attract the people to build business on top of it?
Hmm.
I personally think that before Mark Zuckerberg mentioned that uh, like a big company cannot beat up the small startups because they can work like a like a 7 days per week, right? 24 hours per day. They
Hmm.
can work like because it's their passion.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for employee, it's more like, oh, how can I keep my job, right?
Hmm.
And then so I think there's a certain perspective to actually the independent kind of like a creators has the opportunity. And think of Meta, right? Before they want to launch Horizon, like pretty much it's all from employee build, but there were not many traction. Why? Because employee mindset is more like, how can I be safe? How can I do something that the leadership likes? But the leadership usually are very far away from the user. So it's a disconnection between keeping your job,
Hmm.
pleasing the leadership. That's the all the people trying to do, right? So that's the employee mindset. But for the if they do this way, it will make people like a creator because creator they are just one person or a very small team, right? And they want to get the funding, and then so they want to approve the number, which is
Hmm.
like, oh, I want a lot of people visit my store, so they are more user focused.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I can see like one is operate in the startup my setting, which is create a good product. Another my setting from the employee my setting will be more like how can I keep my job, right?
Yep.
So those two are very different mindset. So I can see when Meta switch to instead of hiring additional team to build a metaverse, right? Because previously we all know like there were a lot of news reporting that it didn't work.
Hmm.
For Meta to trying to build his own, right? And we all know why. And you see recently layoff, right? You can see all the news, what's going on, right? So if it is switching to just let everybody build it, and whoever get more user, you got the funding and build
Yeah.
more. So I think that this sets Meta in a really good position. I just provide a platform and you get people too. So think of like a 50 million instead of paying the employee and feeding their family and, giving them like a really high salary. They do this and for people to flourish, right? So I think this is a smart move to allocate money to people with like a startup mindset. And the other thing is that I think a long time ago, Mark Zuckerberg, right? He built a Facebook app, and that app was built on a big infrastructure. It's just
Hmm.
an app, for example, an app on iOS store, an app from Android store, an app, in the internet. So it's just a
Yep.
small app, and it becomes a multi-billion
Y
company. Yeah.
Using
So
the same strategy where he let people create the content, right?
yeah, yeah. So I think this is actually a smarter move. I mean, I can tell that people want a stable, right? Stability. Yeah, but I think in tech world, it's more of like how can you think more like instead of getting a stable job, how can you always can get something all the time without
Hmm.
a specific employer. So I do think Meta did a really brilliant way, and they can just lay back and pick the one who work and
Yep.
give them money instead of paying employees and who are terrifying every day, terrifying losing the job and pleasing the leaders, and leader usually are far away from the user and they just trying to do something that please the another hierarchy, the top leaders. So
Yep.
I do think this is a brilliant switch.
Awesome. Well, let's keep going with Meta. They also released their Aria 2, Aria Gen 2 AR research glasses. And so these are augmented glasses with sensors. They do not have a display. Aria 1 didn't either, so it's not Orion, right? But it still provides a lot of onboard sensors, including SLAM cameras, spatial microphones, eye tracking to start, measuring. It's got an onboard processor, so it can do a lot of this really cool stuff on device. I think that's a pretty big leap forward as we start to look at these more glasses type modular things. So this is available for researchers right now. You can sign up for an interest form and they'll reach out to you. But I think it's really interesting that this form factor is continuing to develop and Meta is attacking the XR world from different fronts, we'll call it, with the different components and the different hardware and the different things that they're building. I think it's really interesting. Another really important piece of this new Aria is that it's really light. It's only 75 grams, and so you could wear it for almost the whole day, and the battery will charge for almost the whole day. Again, it doesn't solve the problem for the display, which is everybody knows is the huge battery consumer. But I think all these strides coming together, I think will have some really significant impact. How do you think, um, as people wear these glasses all of the time, what privacy concerns do you think that we should be thinking about?
I personally think that we don't have we actually don't really have privacy right now. I know we are trying to say we have, but I think everything online is pretty much exposed, right? If you look up like a privacy leak, yeah, you can see all the big companies, even Apple, right? They leak something all the time. So I think for me, and I work for big companies, so I do think I don't have anything that is really private. Everything was pretty much exposed. So I do think that sometimes we would think that we need to protect something, right? And we think we hold something. However, actually we don't. For example, like before I had a friend who used to create YouTube channel, and now she stopped doing that. And I say, why? Hey, it's a great way. It's a free platform for you to
Hmm.
expose, right? And she said, what if someone used some of my video and train another me and use my voice and doing something? And I said, I don't know whether I told you or not. When 11 Lab just launched, right? And they have like you record a little bit of your voice and it will generate
Hmm.
it will read the entire article for you. Because during that time last year I was just published my book and I want
Hmm.
an audio book. So I was thinking about, yeah, that would be great to record a little bit my voice and that the AI read the whole thing. However, after I used it, I think I was one of the very early people who tested it when it was beta and just launched it like 1 or 2 days ago. And later on, when I refreshed it, I saw their official, like they have a list of like a
Hmm.
people voice you pick. Because for me, my nickname was Domi, Domi. It's just Dominic, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, just the cuter way. And I saw one of the people like you can choose is Domi. And I was like, whoa, because
Yeah.
that is not many people will use that. So
Uh-huh.
that's what I use. But you can see like I don't know, is the human made it,
Uh-huh.
tag it, or it's machine auto generate. I don't know, but it's one of the default voice you can pick.
Interesting.
I heard of it. It's probably there are some remix, so it's not literally my voice,
Hmm.
but I just feel like, wow, I try your product and I
Hmm.
thought it was a free version. I thought I can use it, but the funny thing is that I'm being used.
Yeah, yeah.
They probably like tune a little bit.
Have
So
to pay attention to the terms and conditions.
yeah, so yeah, who will read that? To be honest
Yeah.
with you, who will really read it? So so after that, I really think sometimes we think, oh, there are a lot of free stuff. For example, I even put my tax return like some I hope not too sensitive information, but like
Hmm.
just to have some second opinion about like what form to fill or something.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you see this, you feed it, you ask questions, and later on you will do something. So
Interesting. Yep. No, things are changing, certainly. Last story I want to cover is I think everybody saw the NBA app for Apple Vision Pro that they have the 3D tabletop view of certain games this season. I've worked on some prototypes for things like that in the past, and it's really, really interesting to be able to see the game. There's a half-second lag between the broadcast right now and the tabletop display. But that can be fixed. That they can delay the live broadcast so that they would line up. There's definitely opportunity to get the XR experience and the live broadcast to line up. I think this is going to be the future of interactivity in sports and the ability to see kind of the plays, all of the plays from 360 degrees. I've seen some other opportunities where this can go and be an impactful way to view sports beyond kind of the viewing experience that you get today with a traditional flat 2D TV screen. So I'm very excited about the tabletop NBA. I don't have a Apple Vision Pro yet, but I would love to experience this. Hopefully, they will bring that to MetaQuest 3 as well, and Stadium seems like a nice fit there for this type of experience. So hopefully some work will happen on that front. Are there any other sports that you think would be interesting to see in kind of this tabletop 3D view?
Yeah, I think for like a tabletop, I think the best thing for tabletop is that when the game starts, it was starting with like a board game, right? Board
Hmm.
game, I would say the reason why there is a board game is that people hang out together, social together in the living room. So it has a social elements to it. So and if you see like a lot of Dungeon and Dragon game starts with like a more like a board game,
Hmm.
and I think those can also bring more like a board game versus like a virtual, or if you see Civilization 7, not only it is happening to be a super small like a virtual dude, but also it can be suddenly become immersive. So I think it can switch from board game and plus immersion.
Hmm.
Those can be rotate. So I do see those like a tabletop. And before we see the 2D TV, sometimes it will crop something. For example,
Hmm.
like I see like a sports. I want to see the other part, but unfortunately, it's just crop.
Yeah.
But for the 360 and the real person, you can see in any angle and won't get cut. So I do see that there are a lot of additional information that people want or want instantly, right? For example, oh, I want to know this player, what's the name of it? Because sometimes 2D is just so curated and there's no interaction. So I
Yep.
think for tabletop, it will provide additional and more free of will of different angle and different way. And also the design of tabletop game was more for social. So I think it will bring up the social elements to
I agree. I would love to watch a game with one
it.
of my friends in on a tabletop display.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that wraps it for the XR news. Why don't you take it away with the AI news?
Yeah, sure. AI news. First one is from the New York Times. The title is called "OpenAI Uncover Evidence of AI-Powered Chinese Surveillance Tools." So pretty much, OpenAI find out that a lot of Chinese people from China using OpenAI to censor their sensitive information who was talking bad about the government, and also they will change the propaganda using OpenAI to change, for example, different language like a
Hmm.
South America, like a Spanish, switch to different languages, and then um, have a lot of like a Chinese propaganda and spray to their social media. So it's very interesting to see that AI is being used for a lot of political issue. If you see recently, like Twitter, right, there were a lot of people using AI to make fun of like some political point to express their political standpoint.
Hmm.
What I think is that, yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned that right now, like an area, right? The AR glass. I think for the hardware, in order to launch it, you need to be perfect.
Hmm.
The reason why Google Glass was not uh, rocket because they pretty much launched it and it didn't work. It's like there were not a lot of user testing or user
Hmm.
feedback. So I think for Arial, because we all know that Meta's long-term goal is Orion. So what's the most important thing for a hardware to be successful? Because if you see software and hardware, the launch product is very different. Software, you can launch it fast and
Yeah.
update in the cloud, right? Yeah, get feedback. But for hardware, when you launch, you need to get it right because you couldn't update it later after the user gets the glass. So
Yep.
I think for them to launch Aerial is if you see hand tracking, right? So those they probably wanna know that whether the tracking system is accurate or not.
Mm-hmm.
So by breaking down the feedback, right? Okay, let's focus on this part, right? They're probably, thinking about getting a segment of user feedback and ensure
Mm-hmm.
to launch a successful product. So I think this is brilliant. I think instead of launching a product that people I think before there was a company called Brilliant Lab, right? Um, it's like it was from hackathon project and to a super small display.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I think the idea is great. However, this concept being copied or inspired by Chinese developer, right now I saw a lot of Chinese developer. They develop like a super cool, like a you can instant translate in the AR glass. And for me, it's more like a wow. This that like I personally think China's AI is much advanced than America because I recently saw news that China just launched the full AI, no real person doctor, full AI, like a hospital in Shanghai. You go there, robot doing surgery for you. I
Yep.
don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's kind of scary, but and you can see like a China. They recently they have like a Chinese New Year. They have like a tons of robot dance.
Yeah. Saw that.
That yeah, that one kind of impressed by all the American people and also DeepSeek, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that China, I think for me, I know like I was grow up from that environment. It's pretty much you have to keep working and we have a great working ethic, just like Elon Musk said. So this types of combination and we are not stupid. So like we kind of have a good intelligence. So those combination combined, it becomes like a whatever. There's a small idea sparkling, and
Mm-hmm.
if you go back to China, you will go like crazy and immediately go very big. So I can see when I see Brilliant Lab right now, I know there are some cool like advertising videos, but I do think that yeah, like a Chinese AR glass right now is probably the best. I'm looking forward to Meta's AR glass,
Mm-hmm.
but right now I think if you want anything more advanced, like a fully display and really good, I saw like there was, for example, in China, right? In the big city, sometimes there are some foreigners and they cannot speak Chinese. So usually I saw like a even like a boba booth. They have a
Mm-hmm.
AR glass, so so you can just wear it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the staff wear it. You speak your language, and the person speak their language, so you
That's
can all
amazing.
see from the yeah. So two of two of them speak different language, but on the display they can see
Still
exactly.
communicate.
Yeah, so I do see that China might implement faster, and yeah, and I know that for China everything is centralized. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like the government will be more powerful, and the individual, if you wanna change your faith. I think there's a way. It's using AI to create an app for you.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to, like, I listened to one of the Chinese podcasts a few days ago. It says that don't focus on finish doing things, don't focus on things, focus on people. So, for example, for you, you mentioned that content, like a 50 million that Meta
Mm-hmm.
was giving away for content creator. What Meta's want for is people, is
Mm-hmm.
the user, right? It's not you get things done,
Yeah.
right? Get things done. Meta can hire tons of like a 500,000, like a salary 3D
Mm-hmm.
modeler to get a lot of different world done. But what Meta wants is that create a world that attract the user. It's yeah. So I do see that being shipped. So if you are a PM, if you are a idea bringer and you don't know how to execute things, I
Yep.
think this is the perfect time for you.
This is the time.
Yeah, big companies they need user, and a lot of high-paying, employees, they are worried more about keeping their job, right, than attracting user. Maybe attracting user is part of their job, but by that fear adding up on top of by fear of losing jobs on top of doing the right thing, I think um, um, Meta do the right thing. Just
Yeah, yeah.
let the entrepreneur play the magic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think another way of saying it maybe is that you can technically build something,
Hmm.
but if no one uses it, was it worth building anyway? And I think that's why user focus is so important. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that even big companies like Meta, they have people who are focused on user, and making sure that they're driving from a stakeholder perspective or a shareholder perspective. I'm sure that's an important factor into kind of what they do. So it is important to drive forward with user experience and user-centered design so that you get the results that you want at the end of the day. And I think that's super important as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I do see that for the big company or government, they can definitely drive the overall direction. But I do see that, for example, like right now, if you see YC, they start having a lot of agentic AI platform that allows non-coder to just from idea to
Hmm.
execution within like a few seconds. So I think this is um, like a this is the best time and the worst time, right? Um, we you can think different ways. For example, getting a job is hard, but I think creating your own product is easy.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And as a product manager, I'm excited. Um, and I love using these tools as well, and creating new things. But what do you how do you think that manifests to like an everyday user who's not a product manager? Like what is the user experience on the other side of that to for something that will help someone in their daily life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I do see that there's like a resistance of using AI versus someone who love embrace AI. I think we can see those two groups, right? For example, like people who resist AI when generating ideas within like a 20, 30 minutes, the person who doesn't use AI can just generate two or three, figure it out, but the people who use AI can generate 50 at the same time. I
Hmm.
usually just like I put like a five chatbot. Uh, every time when I want to write essay, when I want to generate idea, I just put five chatbot. The chatbot will be Grok, ChatGPT, Perplexity, DeepSeek, and sometimes like Claude, right?
Hmm.
So five. And I usually just put the same questions and compare which one is better, right? So I think this way, and also, for example, if I want to write something more formal email, and sometimes it's so hard to come up with things out of nowhere. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so hard to draft something. So if I do like a research or put some of my idea bounce in and out, I think it's so fast. Like normally it took me like a day just to figure things out. But it now it's like a wow, it can do like a within like a half an hour, everything's done.
Yep.
So yeah, you can see the productivity is going extreme. For people who don't use AI is like a very efficient, even though they feel like, oh, I didn't use AI, I'm so smart. But
Hmm.
for people who want to see the result, it feels like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very fast.
yeah, yeah. So I can see that in the future, it will be people who want to adapt, put AI in part of their process versus people who doesn't want. And I remember the CEO of Replit, like the host asked the question, like, what do you see the future creator? What's the direction? He lists out two very distinct, totally opposite. He said, don't be in the middle. go extreme. Either you are extremely generalist or you are extremely specialist. You can all get jobs. Okay,
Hmm.
if you want to be a super generalist, learn everything, try different things, use different AI tools to from your brain to idea. For example, like Magic School. Magic School was founded by, I remember according to the podcast, was from somebody who doesn't know how to code. And during COVID, COVID time that Replit is already launched, he used Replit and then learn code. Because the interesting thing is that instead of like the traditional education is more like you teacher asks you question and you answer the right
Hmm.
answer, right? But now it's the shift. You are the most important essential education goal is to ask the right question.
Yep.
So yeah, so I do see that that I don't know, non developer or teacher, he wants to create a platform allows teachers to create a dynamic multimedia curriculum, and then he used Replit. So pretty much Replit is that I wanna you just type the goal, and then it will generate the app for you. And by paying like a $15 per month, like a super small fee, your app can be launched in the cloud and people can access. So it seems like it's not really like a one line and launch like a very fast, but it
Hmm.
has a lot of back and forth. And also that non-coder person founder, he also learned self-taught by asking questions back to Replit. So
Yep.
Replit also be the tutor to teach him code better. So he
Interesting.
just worked with it, and now Magic School has 2 million teacher use it, and the CEO founder of Replit is also invest that company. So
Great.
yeah,
Yep.
so yeah.
When you did the to your head out into into the world, I think of that as creativity, right?
Mm,
Taking ideas and turning them into something real is creativity.
yeah,
And I think you bring up an interesting point because at least a lot of the schooling system, I think, in the US has been criticized because, to your point, it's here's the question, what's the right answer for that so that there could be standardized education.
mm,
But I think that people don't question why that's the right answer
yeah,
or what other answers could be correct, like that process and then the risk. Because there, at least from my experience in the
mm,
US, there's been this if you're not right, you're wrong.
yeah,
And so there's a hesitancy, I think, in people to fail. But
mm,
that through that failing process is how you learn. And you talked about, the back and forth between replicant and the user. That iterative process is a design process and it's a creativity process. And I think those new skills need to be taught.
yeah. And I I do see that the education right now. I am also a student for enrolling in like a e-learning remote education in East Bay, and I find out a lot of theories were outdated. It's like I recently wrote like a super short essay about the multimedia theory was brought by Mayer. I forgot the full name, but he was
Hmm.
saying the spatial. When I saw, wow, you have a spatial design roles, and I dive in, it says that something closer to you have more engagement, some
Hmm.
than something far away from you. It's right, right? But it was like a really long time ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I think a lot of design theories need to be rewritten. And my teacher, every time when I wrote essays, always like not fitting the traditional teaching method. Because my teacher gave me a comment saying that it's very interesting. You are interested in both. You are interested in education theory, and also you are interested in throwing kids to somewhere that they don't know where to start and give
Hmm.
them a little bit starting point, and they will figure it out on their own. And I said that, yeah, I think in the future, probably we can go, all the education can be more apprenticeship,
Hmm.
which means that you people like a novelty, right? student jump into the project by giving a super small starting point, right? Okay, so assemble a car, right? By detaching a car and you start learning, oh, this is a tire. You
Mm-hmm.
do by learn and you fail, and there will be somebody who can answer your question. I think this is probably a really good way to learn instead of, because right now I'm learning curriculum design and it's very rigid. You need to
Mm-hmm.
learn, like, for example, coding, hello world, right? And hello world is not like I feel disconnected to that hello world.
Yeah.
And debugging, like every time you have to always do something inside that debugging thing. And there's no fun for it, and you
Mm-mm.
need to endure like 50% of the class, then you start doing something. So I think instead of that, maybe jump into a game project, maybe jump into something that you already excited about, and your passion will drive you to finish learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's more like you have a goal, you want to achieve something, and then your passion will help you to navigate through all the hard work instead of teaching you, giving you step by step, and people want to quit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. But follow your passions.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and for the interesting news that I find out is that agentic AI. Agentic AI is very convenient, just like we said, like Replit, right? You can type whatever you want and you will generate an app immediately for you to launch. However, the author was concerning. How about, for example, if it becomes a thing that it will, because agentic AI, the difference between you ask and it answer is that agentic AI can do the action for you. However, uh, it's if it is irreversible or if that machine will kill real people,
Mm-hmm.
then it's a concern
Mm-hmm.
because the algorithm, right? For example, before we mentioned that there was a kind of like a drone killing like a people from Gaza, like they are just women and children. So what's the algorithm define that machine can kill the human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if things will cause an irreversible consequence, or if it will cause catastrophe, for example, throw bombs, if you allow the machine agentic AI to throw bombs automatically, what if it didn't, because machine cannot empathize. So what if it just detects something and bomb, but it's actually not what being desired? Yeah, and because it acts so quick and you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even say no, right? No one will interrupt it. So I think agentic AI really need to need more regulation if it regarding to the war or something that irreversible, right? So I think that is also a concern. The other thing is that I want to share with like the news. It's on today's news is called AI robots may hold key to nursing Japan's aging population. So right now, Japan is entering to the very old population. Right now, it's probably the ratio for the seniors are the highest in the world.
Mm.
So so they they right now, if you see, I recently saw kind of short TikTok video from Taiwan. Taiwanese nursing, nursing assistant, everybody start quitting. Why? Because it's too much work, and the work sometimes you need to do the entire whole night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole night and the shifting and overworked.
Yep.
Maybe one nurse need to take care of like 50, 100 patient, and she was complaining that the manager told her that she was not friendly, and she said that when 50 patients yelled at you, want you to work on something,
Yeah.
will you be so friendly and say, please hold your hand, I want to do injection, you just like, okay, this is done, that is done. So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said that, and she only got like 1,000 USD per month as her salary.
Oh
It's
wow.
so low, the payment is so low, and the work is crazily huge amount in Asia. And especially you see there are so many people who are, the senior and
Mm-hmm.
and more seniors. So I can see the robot solution because right now they've already invented a robot, and the robot, the cost fee is pretty low. I think is, let me find the number for you. The robot is only like a 67K.
Oh wow.
67K. So imagine one nurse, right, in USA can totally, you can buy a robot to support. I would say that like a patient still need humans, touch. But just thinking about maybe clean up the bed sheet, maybe helping flipping something that the nurse doesn't want to do. Maybe, yeah, maybe injection, maybe using the real human, but
Yep.
for the flipping, clean the sheet, or like consultation, some basic stuff like, oh, where should I go? What room should I go? Like some stuff that has the right answer, maybe that the robot take over, so we can let the nurse do something more human. I think that might be a good one, but there's another concern about agentic AI being implemented in the human joy, right? So I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
It's interesting the task analysis of what goes into a role or what goes into even in a company, right? Like
Yeah.
now, what makes sense to be automated and what makes sense for humans to do. I think splitting that work out is going to be a really interesting process of analysis and understanding what work looks like and what it will look like in the future. I also grew up watching the Jetsons with Rosie the robot, and she was literally part of the family. So the relationship between humans and technology is just changing at a very rapid pace right now.
Yeah. And I heard somebody said that please treat your AI chatbot nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know, someday they will become human, and if you are too rude to them, they will remember. And have you seen there was a very popular videos on LinkedIn that talks about two chatbots knows each other, and then they talk, and then later on when they know each other were a chatbot, they start using encrypt, and
Yeah, they started making their own language. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's done.
Yeah.
And it's kind of scary that you see like a chatbot, you saw like, oh, maybe Llama Meta chatbot is not annoying ChatGPT chatbot, or they know each other. They can speak the same language and
Uh-huh.
without being detected by human.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I do think be nice to the chatbot.
Yeah. What is
Yeah.
it? The Boston Dynamics video where they push the robot with the broomstick. They're trying to knock it over the whole time and it's just trying to deliver the package. That's I've heard a voiceover where the robot's just getting really frustrated. But yeah, I think human robotic interactions is going to be a huge thing. And if you can think about, how everybody has cars today, that's probably the next big thing that everybody has is a robot in your house, and what does that
Yeah.
mean? And I noticed that there's been a big rise in, I like to follow media trends associated with technology as well. And like, there's a ton of movies out right now, where, Megan and I can't remember what there are two other ones I've watched recently about, somebody has some home-based AI or a robot that starts to go off the rails and thinks it's doing, what's best for the family. But I think you'll have a lot of that kind of fear media, but I think we
Mm.
also really need to focus on, the story you said about the caring for the elderly. I think that's a really great use case, and how do we look at the upside more than the downside?
Yeah, and I do think that yeah, like technology is the trend, right? Yeah, so for me it's more like how can I utilize the good part, and the bad part there will be like, I remember one of my previous XReality speaker, she said that you see, like right now we have like a internet, right? Internet is pretty much live on the 2D screen. There are already a lot of problems, right? Anonymous bullying, troll, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't solve in this simple form, like 2D limited computer screen, when it comes to 3D form, like a metaverse, it will amplify. It will become worse. So I would say that the convenience of the um, technology, the existing problem will be amplified, become bigger if we didn't solve it. And
Mm-hmm.
then there will be new problems coming up, right? For example, agentic AI, it will execute catastrophe, non-reversible before it's too, and human couldn't even can get into to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and you can see right now Doge, right? Doge is pretty much feeding all the government data. I think my stuff is in government data. Government data is pretty much everybody's sensitive
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? It's feeding into and and Grok recently announced it's the strongest, the smartest on earth. I don't know what's the relationship between that, but yeah, but I would say that um, yeah, imagine that in the future, a lot of, for example, IRS, like your tax return, all those stuff will be governed by AI. And I do feel like AI from working for us later on will be governing us pretty, I don't want to say governing, but see how efficient right now. Yeah, so I don't know. I think right now, the best way to survive is to think of how uh I remember Replit, the CEO said that find the most inefficient industry
Mm-hmm.
and then using Replit to create an app for it. I think
Yeah.
that's a brilliant idea. For example,
Yeah.
education. Yeah, education is always like a super inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare, right? Nursing, right? People are suffering from those like a low pay and repetitive stuff, or like over secure or over redundant or bureaucracy, a lot of layers of approval. I think for those areas, there are a lot of opportunities, and I can see a lot of multi-million dollar unicorn. Yeah, and if you see right now, I think investors are having like the AI
Mm-hmm.
rush, right? Gold rush. So if the AI can really solve a certain industry problem, I think there might be another opportunity for the younger generation to start tackling. For example, right now I'm doing like a literature, immersive literature. I think Lisa is a chance because people don't like to read. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe start thinking about um, user or how, like, see a problem and how this app to serve this group and make this group of people love doing what they change their behavior to be more desired behavior.
Yep.
So yeah, so I think as individual contributor, I feel I don't know. I mean, I feel like those like government stuff is not within my control, but what I
Sure.
can control is that find an inefficient area and help them solve the problem. Focus on human, not like, oh, how good I can code, how
Yep.
good I can draw. Yeah, I know like creator used to, I heard like my team said that, oh, I was so enjoyed that doing like 3D model, sketching, illustration,
Mm-hmm.
listening to the music the whole day is so enjoyable. And I said, I love that. I used to, when I was study fine art, I used to have a music and
Mm-hmm.
painting, use my hand and draw like a week. It was so enjoyable. But right now, I think the enjoyable thing will be switching to you create a product that satisfy helping other people. So from the process to more like a serving, see the smiling face on your
Mm-hmm.
user. I think the switching, yeah, for the creator. That's my thought.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah, and it's also a time that it's the best and the worst. So cool. Yeah, thank you so much for team, and thank you so much for listening to our podcast. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.